Let's talk about some studies that you've done in the past that might be of interest to our audience. The you did the diet fits. You mentioned either healthy low fat versus healthy low carb. That's a question a lot of people have. Should I eat low carb? Should I eat low fat? What's the best way for me to lose weight? You did it with overweight and obese adults for 1 year. Explain to us what you found.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'll go back to a previous study called A2Z, which was Atkins, Zone, Ornish, and a traditional health professionals approach. That's where we got all the letters. And if you arrange them right, it can be A2Z and be cute. 300 women got randomized to those diets. And there, after a year, there were just a few pounds difference between the groups on average. But what just blew me away was the range of response to people who were reading the same book. It was like a 60-pound range. Somebody lost 50 pounds, somebody gained 10, and everything in between on all four diets. And all kinds of people asked me for this slide that showed, like, I had everybody as one bar in a graph. So all 300 women were on one graph showing a pattern for the four diets. It's like, oh my God, the patterns are almost identical on all four diets, even though they're crazy different. Ornish is crazy low fat, and Atkins is crazy low carb. So Diet Fits was in response to that.
Can I ask you something about A to Z? So was this just looking at weight loss efficacy, or was it also health benefits too? And did you find anything since we're on that study?
Yeah. So basically, as everybody lost weight, there were lots of differences that were better. I have to go back to A to C to see if I can remember. I'm going to guess on Atkins, LDL cholesterol went up more and was worse, but on Atkins, triglycerides went down more and was better.
Because of the
Something
lack
like
of
that. But
carbs or processed carbs. Yeah.
yeah. But Diet Fits was designed to really go at that with 600 people, men and women, not just women, and very specifically to look at what we thought might explain that variability within each diet. So one of the things that we thought of was a genetic predisposition, and somebody helped us come up with a genetic marker for this, a 3-SNP multi-locus genotype pattern that might have predicted it. And I was really interested in the insulin resistance side of this. So I actually totally bought into this idea that, yes, some people are more insulin resistant than others. A typical low-fat diet is very high in carbohydrate. Wow, maybe that's challenging for someone who has more insulin resistance to be on a low-fat, high-carb diet. Maybe if we have two really good diets, so let's make the best low carb and the best low fat we can, healthy low carb, healthy low fat, for a year. And let's predict that we'll get what we got in A to Z. We'll get like a 60-pound range. Somebody will gain 10, somebody will lose 50. 60-pound range, which we totally got, replicated that. Probably what explains it is some kind of predisposition, a metabolic predisposition or a genetic predisposition. And the main finding of Diet Fits was, despite over 6,000 pounds of weight loss, there was no predictive factors that we found. They had the same range, wide variability in response, but the insulin resistance didn't work and the genotype didn't work. And to be honest, I was a little skeptical about the genotype. There's a bazillion different ways you could do a genotype. But insulin resistance was more cut and dry. There's a couple ways to measure it. There's different proxy measures. There's no perfect way to measure it. But we used what's called insulin 30, so 30 minutes into a glucose tolerance test where you've, on a fasting stomach, had 75 grams of straight glucose for this oral glucose tolerance test, which shoots straight into your bloodstream because there's nothing in your stomach. And you get an immediate insulin response to this. And if you're insulin resistant, your insulin goes very high. And if you're more insulin sensitive, it stays low. So it's pretty cut and dry what that one is. It didn't work at all. That did not predict who in the low carb group lost the most or the least. And I struggled with this for a long time because I was convinced this was going to work. There are other smaller, shorter trials that had shown this. This was a larger, longer trial. And what the conclusion we came to was that both diets were high quality. we asked the low carbers to eat a high quality low carb diet. And so you know, what the heck is a high quality low carb diet? Well, to me, a low quality low carb diet would be fatty meats and processed things where really the focus is just eliminating carbs, but having keto bombs or, you know, keto brownies or things like, why not food? So low carb was that. And it was pretty funny that some of the low carbers criticized us for Diet Fits for making unfairly unhealthy a healthy low fat diet. I said, why didn't you let them have white flour and soda? Those are low fat. I said, well, no, that's the problem. If low fat is sodas and white flour and lots of those types of things, that's not going to be good for your metabolism. So it was a healthy low fat and a healthy low carb. And we got good success on average across both groups, but still weren't able to predict why there was so much variability. And I've come to think it's something to do with satiety, but may not have time to get into that.